everyone, thanks for joining me. Dave DeVere here with 2D Photography, and we just got our D7000, and I thought I'd give you guys a bit of a review. So first thing, this new 16.2 megapixel camera has a really nice magnesium alloy body that you'll really notice the weight of. It's not heavy, but it's got a really nice weight compared to its predecessors. The only other major difference out of the box, other than this nicely weather-sealed magnesium alloy body, is the new battery and charger. The new battery is the EN-EL15, which is an upgrade from the EN-EL3E that we all loved from the D80, the D90, the D700 and the D300S, and the D300 of course. But it also comes with a new MH25 battery charger that you'll slide the battery into, and has a nice little handy wall mount that you can lock in and out of position or exchange with the included AC adapter. So all in all, the new pack is really interesting. They got some new features. The standard AV and USB cables come with the box that you have tons of, and of course the manual and warranty. And then other than that, there's just a lot of little features that we're going to give you a more in-depth view of over the next few minutes. So stay tuned and we'll get to really know this guy. Okay, so now we'll give you a more in-depth view of all the minor changes and upgrades that they've made to this D7000. Starting at this point of the camera, we can notice the dual card slot, which is really handy. You can choose to have one of these cards back up the other. You can have one shoot RAW, one shoot JPEG. You can have it as overflow, so you can have basically 2 cards of storage. And you can even designate one card to shoot onto video. So if you're shooting video and you don't want to have video and images on the same card, you can have that sorted out. That's a really handy and professional feature. I love that they put this in here. Moving along, they've changed the new live view button. It's now sort of a thumb-friendly swipe. Live view will turn on, and there's a dedicated record button, so that's a nice upgrade too. It's a very easy way to record movies, and that's a very big advantage for those people who want to get into the movie modes of this camera. Of course, it shoots at 1080p, but we'll get into that later on. The new viewfinder is 100% viewfinder, which is a nice upgrade in my opinion from 94 or 95, I believe, from the D90. They've moved the playback button up here as opposed to down here from the D90 and the D80. This is where you'll see it on the D300 and the D3. I think that's a really nice place for it. It's really ergonomical and it makes it a bit simpler to see all your functions. They've added a lockable shooting mode dial. So if you want to go from single to continuous low, continuous high, quiet, timer, remote, and mirror lockup, you can do that with this dial and avoid changing your scene modes. The CL, which is continuous low, can be set from 1 to 5 frames per second, and the CH, which is continuous high, starts out at 6 frames per second, and we can have a listen to that. That's your 6 frames per second. And the quiet mode is actually pretty quiet, and we can actually have a listen to that as well. And it's a lot quieter than the actual regular sound. That's a really nice feature. On the front of the camera, not much has changed. They have gotten rid of the AF button that used to be down here, and they've moved it over to the front of where the dial is here from AF to manual. So that's one thing to note. If you're looking for that button, it's moved here. It's really hard to see. It's just a little button. You push this in. You use the sub-command wheel to change from AFF to AFS to AFC, as well as obviously manual to autofocus. The new cap is a nice addition. This is that new rugged cap that we've seen on the D3S. It's really nice and big and sturdy. You can easily take it off with a glove on, which is a nice feature. Like I mentioned earlier, the new shutter release is black instead of silver. And I think that's all the major differences. There's also a stereo mic input. So for those of you shooting movie, you have that option. I don't believe this is on the 3100, which just has the monaural audio recording. So this is a bit more serious. And that's basically it. We'll get into some more detailed shots of the actual display when we're shooting in live view and video mode for all those of you who are curious about what the new tracking systems are like and how good that continuous autofocus is. So stay tuned, and we're going to set up a rig here so you guys can actually see this thing in action. So one thing we forgot to mention earlier is that this camera's ISO setting goes now to 6400 and in its natural mode and up to 25,600 at its high 2 setting. But what we're really curious about is the video mode. Shooting at 24 frames at 1080p for up to 20 minutes, depending on the size and speed of your card, that's a big improvement on what we've seen before. Now, there are also some other settings like face detection and subject tracking, as well as continuous autofocus that are also pretty exciting. One thing to note about the continuous autofocus is that we had some trouble with our 50mm Sigma 1.4, so we're going to assume that a lot of third-party lenses might not be too happy with this continuous autofocusing for live view and movie mode. But since you guys might be curious about how that actually looks on the camera, we've set up this little rig so you guys can actually get a view of the screen while we're shooting. So stick around and we'll show you a user's point of view on how this thing works when recording a movie or just shooting live view. So here we're using the continuous autofocus in live view mode, and we're just setting the camera to focus on whatever's in front of it right now. So this is a Gatorade bottle it's focusing on. We'll go over back to Brendan and it'll continue to stay focused on whatever's in front of it. Pretty cool. Here we are going to set something in the subject tracking mode. So to set something, find your target and then hit the OK button and the camera will continue to track whatever it is. So we've just selected the guitar here, and no matter if you move the camera or if your subject moves, the camera will continue to try and focus on that object in your screen. Here's an example of the facial tracking system. So you don't have to set this, it'll just find any faces that you have in your viewfinder and it'll continue to track them. And we can actually start recording here. So we've just started recording and as you can see, nothing's really changed. It continues to track the face. Here's an actual view of what the D7000 footage looks like. And you know, it's not really the most consistent things. There is some intermittent parts where it has to refine its focus, but when it is on focus, it is pretty sharp. Here's a recording of subject tracking. So as you can see, we've selected the top of this guitar, actually the bottom of the guitar, but the guitar is being held upside down because it's a lefty guitar. And we're continuing to track that guitar's top as Brendan moves around. Similar to the facial tracking, focus is a bit intermittent, but when it is on, it's on pretty nicely. And there you have the new focusing measures for the D7000. So there's some of the nifty features that they've tried to jam-pack into this D7000. We especially like things like the dual card slot, the magnesium alloy body, and all the new additions they've made to the movie mode. This thing is pretty reasonable at $1,300, give or take, and we find that that price, it's a really good toy to add to your arsenal. So stay tuned over the next couple of weeks and we'll try and pump out some footage using that 1080p to give you guys an idea of how that looks. We hope you found this review helpful, and thanks for watching.